Well, hello everyone. Welcome back to yet another political episode. So we got to talk about another epic exchange uh, from Donald Trump to one of our so-called allies once again. And this time I want to call this country an ally, more like an acquaintance, because we got to talk about South Africa, which is a country obviously thrustled in the middle when it comes to international relations. South Africa is an ally of Russia and the United States. I would arguably say it's more closer to Russia because it's a part of the BRICS alliance, which is a rivaling alliance with the United States. But South Africa, the United States has always had a good relationship with South Africa. Friendly conversations, good tourism, good relations. But up till now, things have reportedly gone downhill, mainly because the new administration, the Trump administration, is raising alarms over the lack of concern from the South African government on the violent and vicious attacks led by black mercenaries to eliminate the Afrikaner population. Now, for those of you who do not know, South Africa is a very diverse country, as you can clearly see. Its official language are more than 4 different languages, including Afrikaans, English, Xhosa, Venda, Zulu, Southern Sotho, Northern Sotho, Swani, Songa, Swati, South African Sign, that's sign language. They have it as an official language. And then Ndebele, whatever that means. So South Africa is very diverse. It's also diverse racially. They're divided into many tribes. Zulu is one of the tribes of South Africa. There's also, and they're just a part of the, of course, the African population, though, makes up like 80% of, let's just say, South Africa. Well, this is official language, but racially. But we're talking about the minority group, and that is Afrikaners or Afrikaans, in other words. They come mainly over here. Context and how they got here. Now, the Dutch were the first settlers of modern-day South Africa, and it was called Dutch Cape. Okay? Dutch Cape Colony, or otherwise it's called the Dutch South African Company. But yes, it's long time been Dutch. But then after the defeat of Napoleon Bonaparte, the Dutch decided to create this deal with the British, where they said, "Hey, look, Netherlands." We want Cape. We're willing to buy Cape, and in return, we're going to give you Belgium, and some colonies instead of islands. Sure, said the Dutch, but little did the Dutch know that they got ripped off, because then Belgium revolted and became independent, so they got ripped off pretty badly. But Britain didn't care. They got a new colony. So the British now took over South Africa. And despite the British taking over, Dutch settlers, which were known as Boers, still largely occupied this area, which was called Cape Colony. South Africa was still largely divided, though. There was known as British Cape. There was the Orange Free States. And then there was the country of Transvaal. And eventually, they are going to say they're going to agree to merge together to create a British united Commonwealth, British Commonwealth. What, Transvaal? Make a map. But yes, you'll see these. This is the early maps of South Africa. Orange Free States right here. Cape Colony. This is Cape Colony. Here's Transvaal. but they're going to say, yeah, sure, we'll join. But that was just because of the Zulus, right? Because the Zulu kingdom was a huge threat to the Transvaal and the Boers. But fast forward, Zulus were defeated by the English, by the British. Then they said, actually, we're going to back out of this agreement. Britain said, no, you guys are going to join us. This leads to the First and Second Boer Wars. South Africa, the Boers, they win these wars, but they agree to create the Union of South Africa. This is where we get this, where a lot of people will say this is apartheid South Africa. So this is the Union of South Africa. So they're going to create this. And basically it's what became known as the South Africa of the 20th century were ruled by the white minority. Zimbabwe, which was known as Rhodesia at the time, was also ruled by the white minority also. It was also led by a white, these are Rhodesians, in modern-day Zimbabwe. Very similar to South Africa. The only deal was what eventually became known as the Rhodesian Bush War. Overthrew the the Africans, the blacks, revolted against the whites in the war, and they end up overthrowing the white minorities, and they end up fleeing to South Africa. So you don't have any more white minorities in Rhodesia, which changed its name to Zimbabwe, anymore. They're now in South Africa. And a few years later, what happens? The apartheid ends in South Africa, and South Africa ends up becoming I would say democratic, but it became they start flying this banner under the presidency of Nelson Mandela. And not to mention, Namibia broke off. Apparently, they didn't enjoy the apartheid too much, and I don't expect them to. So they're highly African American. No Boers live up here, and they revolted and they won their independence in what became known as the South African Border War. And here we are today. That was a long recap, and a lot of people say, "Why did you have to recap all of that?" Well, a lot of people don't need. A lot of people need the context. I think you're like, why are there suddenly? You don't see a lot of white people in Africa. That's just the truth. 90%, 99, 98% is black. So why are there white Africans in South Africa? And here you are. It's because ultimately the Dutch and the British just kept the white population going. But ultimately, it's because of this justification of occupation, colonization. Therefore, to some extremists, this gives the justification to go extreme and to call for the elimination of the Afrikaan population. And it's important to no, we call these white South Africans Afrikaners, okay? Afrikaners or Afrikaans, they were formerly known as Boers, but that term died out after World War II. We started calling them Afrikaners. And not to mention, that is the language. They're named after the language they speak, which is a dying language. All these left-wing pundits, they go and say, oh, Trump, he's bringing these English-speaking white people to America. No, they're not English-speaking. They speak a language that is very, very, very diverse, very unpopular. You'll see majority of the country speaks it. And it's going to die. It's called Afrikaan. And it's an interesting language. But it's true, the Afrikaners do know some English. Let's just be honest. They know English. It's an official language. But they generally like to speak their own language and their own culture. The left, they keep saying that we have to respect people and their language and their culture. But then suddenly, they're going and they're attacking these Afrikaners because they're white and they speak a language that is not a usual language. It's a tribal language. So it's kind of hypocritical, don't you think? All because these Afrikaners are white. And through the last couple weeks, we've heard nonstop of the left and the pundits boo-hoo whining and crying about South Africa, why Trump's taking these white Afrikaners, and calling them refugees. It's because this has been an issue before COVID. These ultra, and I'm going to call it for what it is, guys. And you guys can, and the left, I know a lot of you guys won't, but I'm going to call it for what it is. They are black supremacists. Period. They are supremacists. They're black supremacists because, to be honest, if white supremacy exists, then black supremacy exists. And this is an example right here. You're going to hear in this video President Trump introducing to the president of South Africa. It's going to be so speechless to see his own people cheering for the death of the Afrikaners, a genocide. The ethnic cleansing, meaning the wiping out a certain demographic group to a certain demographic group in order for your group to take over racially, right? We've seen this in Rwanda. South Africa in general has a history of ethnic cleansing. And it's disturbing when you see in one of the most developed countries, and in fact, the country leading in more of the most advanced country, South Africa, actually participating in this ritual of ethnic cleansing. But a lot of people, the left, they say, oh, it's fine because it's aimed towards white people. It's not fine. Violence is never okay. And violence motivated by hate is never okay, no matter who it's aimed to. And in this case, we're talking about the Afrikaners. And the left wants to turn their eyes saying, they're not, well, I want to say, yeah, they think they're privileged, and they're not. I mean, sure, they're generally more wealthy, quote unquote, but we look at South African government, very different compared to us. Their trials, the Afrikaners, their trials, if they're arrested, the whole justice system is rigged against them. It's rigged. And they will often, ultimately, violate the court orders in their favor. And you're seeing in this case, land be removed from Afrikaners to give it to the African majority. Now, they're going to say, oh, it's because of economic equality. They need it more. Well, it's their house, though. It's the Afrikaner's house. It's this Afrikaner's man's house. He's paying for it with his own money. What gives you the right to take it away? I think, yeah, we want to help the poor people, but the poor people need to find a job. They can't just go and take over someone's house. They need to find a job and save up for one. They need to do hard work. But in South Africa, and it's ironic because Africa is a continent and a community that believes in hard work. And that's what I admire about them, the African community. They believe in hard work and discipline. South Africa, though, is doubling down on the exact opposite. They look at race and they say, this person needs it more. And they force you on the street to find you another home. Go find another home. So, obviously, we're going to react to this video. President Trump confronting the president of South Africa, who's doing nothing as these black supremacist groups, these ultra-nationalist groups, they're expressing terrorism and hate across the country, calling for the ethnic cleansing of Afrikaners and murdering. And although you'll see, looking here, the mainstream media is so quick to point this out that, fact check, Trump's false suggestion of a genocide against white farmers. Well, let's be clear. The South African government's not conducting a genocide. but they're so silent about the obvious. We're seeing these numbers rise at mass. They're rising, they're skyrocketing. And the South African president won't sit down and have a conversation about it. This leads people to think, does the government have something to do with it? Does the government have something to do with this ethnic cleansing? Or are they in a secret pact with these mercenaries? So we're going to have to take a look at the video. And President Trump, we know he's right. We know we're right because the president of South Africa cannot argue. Like, the liberal media is so quick to call out Trump. No, this is the most silliest thing. Then why didn't the president of South Africa, who honestly would know way better compared to these irrelevant media sources, if this was true or not? We're going to go ahead and take a look.
That there's no white genocide in South Africa?
Well, I can answer that for the president. It's for him. No, seriously.
I'd rather have him answer.
Yeah, I'd rather answer that. It will be.
My president will respond to you.
Yeah, let me,
Thank you, Mr. President.
It will take President Trump listening to the voices of South Africans, some of whom are his good friends, like those who are here. When we have talks between us around a quiet table, it will take President Trump to listen to them. I'm not going to be repeating what I've been saying. I would say if there was Afrikaner farmer genocide, I can bet you these three gentlemen would not be here, including my Minister of Agriculture. He would not be with me. So it will take him, President Trump, listening to their stories, to their perspective. That is the answer to your question.
But, Mr. President, I must say that wait. We have thousands of stories talking about it,
Sure.
and we have documentaries, we have news stories, and that. Is Natalie here? Somebody here to turn that? I could show you a couple of things, and it has to be responded to.
Yeah, sure.
We have. Let me see the articles, please, if you would. And turn the lights down. Turn the lights down, and just put this on. It's right behind you, Johan.
There's nothing this parliament can do. With or without you, people are going to occupy land. We require no permission from you, from the president, from no one. We don't care. We can do whatever you want to do. We can occupy land. That's who we are. Can we drop my membership from this useless parliament? Yes, honorable member. Must never be scared to kill. A revolution demands that at some point there must be killing because the killing is part of a revolutionary act. Shoot, kill, Gaza, kill the poor, the farmer, kill the poor, the farmer, the man of DJ is PE is a white man. So these people, when you want to hit them hard, go after a white man. They feel a terrible pain because they touched a white man. Not because Pashama and Soli will not be touched. They will be touched, no one. But we're starting with this whiteness.
Okay. You saw that. Now, let's put the shoe on the other foot. Let's just say these are white people in, like, the rural countryside of Alabama. And they're calling for killing as they were cheering, they were dancing for killing. This guy right here.
Because the killing is part of the revolutionary act.
He says the killing's a part of the revolution. And he goes and talks about whiteness. That looks like a crowd, a Nazi crowd, a Nazi stadium. Remember? Madison Garden? I'm just saying, there's no doubt about it, guys. If there were a bunch of white evangelical Christians in the rural countryside of Alabama, and they're all calling for the killings of black African Americans in Alabama, the ethnic cleansing, the mainstream liberal media, are you kidding me, would not stop. They would not stop, and absolutely would not justify. This channel would never justify such hate. But the shoe's on the other foot now. It's actually Africans calling for the deaths of whites. And we have the liberal media we have liberal media like CNN, Trump's false suggestion of a genocide. Trump, the New York Times doesn't say much. Trump confronts South Africa's Ramaphosa with false claims of white genocide. And it's just like, okay, yes, some Afrikaners say Trump is being lied to about a white genocide in South Africa, according to CBS. We know if the shoe's on the other foot. We know suddenly the liberal media, they're starting to act really weird. We seem to forget that the Afrikaners are a minority group. And they're very different compared to white people in the United States. The liberal media, we have people, some characters, this guy on the Breakfast Club, thinking it's the same thing. Like, oh, white people, no, they're very different culture. In fact, I think the Afrikaners that we took into this country not too long ago, actually 2 days ago, they're in culture shock because they're in shock. Like, they see our culture and they see you, and everything we do is very normal. Like, it's hard for me to do an example and think of how would that be weird. It's very different for them. So obviously, if you want the left wants to talk about marginalized communities, it's kind of ironic that Afrikaners are not mentioned as one of them because they are actually dying out. They're unlike a lot of these marginalized communities, like the LGBT community is growing for some reason. Oh yeah, we know why it's growing. Woke culture. They want a woke infinity stone. But we have Afrikaners. They're dying out. They're dying out because they're either fleeing or they're being killed. They're being killed. And so it's absolutely brutal. And this kind of just shuts... the president of South Africa, Ramaphosa, is going to say a little bit more, but we want to continue looking at this. Look at that. They even have a translator. They even have a sign language. They want to make sure that the deaf people can go and cheer on the massive killings of innocent Afrikaners. Disgusting.
I'm saying to you, what's not about for the killing of white people, at least for now. I can't ever see the future.
Do you understand somebody watching that, especially as it gets shared on Twitter, they freak out. It sounds like a genocide.
I'm just pause. Keep an eye on the president. I'm not President Trump, but President Ramaphosa. looking at his face right now, I think he knows deep down what he's talking about. And the translation says, "You are a boar. We are going to hit them. And you are going to run. Shoot the boar. We are going to hit them. And you are going to run. We are going to shoot them with the machine gun." This is so sickening, guys. Look at the president. He is not even looking at. He's not even looking at the TV. He knows, guys. Oh my gosh, he knows. So, President Trump. Oh my gosh, this is probably the best. This is way better than Zelensky, because Zelensky left with an attitude. We're humbling this man right here. And I don't think things are going to change now, because once again, this president is bought and sold, like the rest of his country. And if he turns around, his country and his people are going to go and crucify him. But this is ultimately. We're seeing this right now. You won't see this in your history class, guys. You won't see this. You will see 1990 apartheid South Africa content, and rightfully so. It's history. I learned about the apartheid in 8th grade, and I'm not saying, "Whoa, that was woke." No, it's not. It's a part of history. Get over it. But if you're going to talk about apartheid, you got to talk about this too, because the shoe fits your feet. Fits in both of the shoes. Fake analogy, a new analogy I created. Your feet fits on both shoes. In this topic, you could talk about the apartheid against the Africans, but you got to also talk about the apartheid and the attempted genocide and ethnic cleansing of white Afrikaners, which is actually a revenge campaign. This is a revenge campaign. You guys. You can't seriously think, yes, the Afrikaners did so much tragedy, so much brutality to the Africans when they were in power during the 20th century, so much that the Africans can't forgive them, and they're calling for their deaths. Now, I'm not saying Africans, I should clarify, not all Africans are calling for the deaths. I don't think Ramaphosa is calling for the deaths of Afrikaners, but you can see his face right here. He knows. He's being struck with a spear right now of shame. He knows that this is not good. This is being broadcasted on live TV. So, absolutely. And people seeing this footage, they're going to suddenly be like, "Oh, this is a reason. I mean, we should take refugees. We can take in refugees." People say the Congo. "You're not taking refugees from the Congo. You're not taking refugees from the Sudan. You're not taking Ukrainian refugees. You're not taking Gazan refugees." Well, we quite are. And you're just saying that because you don't want us to take Afrikaner refugees, because they don't fit your narrative. They don't fit your left-wing talking point. Makes sense. But I want to continue finishing the translation. Just keep an eye on President Mr. Ramaphosa, whatever his name is. They are going to run. We are going to shoot them. They are going to run.
Who will expropriate land without compensation, whether they like it or not. If they object, they can seek refugee in America.
Yeah, this president's coping really badly.
Now this is very bad. These are very
Ramaphosa wants to be done. He's like, no, let's.
burial sites right here. Burial sites. Over 1,000 of white farmers, and those cars are lined up to pay love on a Sunday morning. Each one of those white things you see is a cross, and there's approximately 1,000 of them. They're all white farmers, the family of white farmers. And those cars aren't driving, they're stopped there to pay respects to their family member who was killed. And it's a terrible sight. I've never seen anything like it. Both sides of the road, you have crosses.
Look at that. It's never ending. But you get what I'm saying. It's just, for some stupid reason, and I don't think it's stupid. We should obviously condemn hate towards all sides. Thank you, Greg, for the commentary. But we should challenge all that, all the said claims. We should all towards racism. Absolutely, we oppose hate towards any group. But suddenly, it's hate towards Afrikaners, which are just white people that, yes, they did have a history of prejudice and hate towards Afrikaners. But just as Africans have entitlements to their safety and their well-being, Afrikaners, it doesn't matter if they supported, if they actually did or not. I would assume majority of those Afrikaners, they are sorry, they're repentant. And they want to be family with the South African or the African. But unfortunately, not all Africans want to be associated with the Afrikaners. And that just rebuilds that hateful relationship between the Afrikaner and the African. I think we already saw something like similar to this. I wanted to see what the president has to say. He's going to say something. He has to, of course, respond very confidently, like, "Oh, our Constitution protects the blah blah blah." No, Mr. President, I'm sorry. You just saw your own people chanting, screaming on the top of their lungs in a stadium for the mass killings of Afrikaners, your own constituents. And what are you doing now? You're saying, "Oh, our Constitution, this is all we need, Mr. President. This is all we need to say, hey, look, your government is complacent." But let's go ahead and take a look. Oops.
Mr. President, the Pentagon announced it would be accepting a Qatari jet to be used as Air Force One.
What are you talking about? You know, you gotta get out of here. What does this have to do with the Qatari jet? They're giving the United States Air Force a jet, okay? And it's a great thing. We're talking about a lot of other things. It's NBC trying to get off the subject of what you just saw.
They're not letting this jet thing go. I think it's hilarious.
You're a terrible reporter. Number one, you don't have what it takes to be
because they have
reporter.
absolutely nothing to rage about. Nothing controversial Trump's doing. Nothing but a jet. It's just stupid.
Subject about a jet that was given to the United States Air Force, which is a very nice thing. They also gave $5.1 trillion worth of investment in addition to the jet. Go back. You ought to go back to your studio at NBC because Brian Roberts and the people that run that place, they ought to be investigated. They are so terrible the way you run that network, and you're a disgrace. No more questions from you. Go ahead. Go ahead, talk about that. His name is Peter something. He's a terrible reporter. Quiet. Let's go.
Thank you so much, President Trump.
Yeah, that's how to... yes, thank you, Greg. Appreciate it. But, yeah, I mean... That it was irrelevant off the topic, but I like how Donald Trump puts these reporters in their place, because obviously we know what they're trying to do. And President Trump, they're being disrespectful to him. I don't see why he can't put them in their place. Just being quite honest.
With government policy, our government policy.
So this is the response of the president of South Africa, and I'm sorry, he's just going back to what he just said before the footage. What he's saying is so irrelevant, and it's like you're not explaining like, oh, this footage was, oh, it was AI or something. It's not AI. No, he wasn't. I would expect like, oh, these people are bad. We as South Africans, we condemn this. He doesn't say that. As far as I know, maybe he will. I doubt it. I saw this footage already, and it's just disturbing. Absolutely. That this president, and he can't condemn it. Why? Because his people will crucify him. And not literally, but they will destroy his political career. So, yeah, I understand maybe he wants to apologize, but he can't politically. But still, this is all you got? He's sabotaging his political career either way. It's just so stupid.
Against what he was saying, even in the parliament. And they're a small minority party, which is allowed to exist in terms of our constitution.
But you do allow them to take land.
No.
You do allow them to take land.
Nobody can
and
take
then when
land.
they take the land, they kill the white farmer. And when they kill the white farmer, nothing happens to them.
No. There is
nothing happens.
There is criminality in our country. People who do get killed, unfortunately, through criminal activity, are not only white people. Majority of them are black people. And we have now been...
Yeah, because it's 80% of the country, though. That's to be expected. Like, yeah, we know that, duh. Like, this isn't, like, it's equivalent to saying the majority of people in this country that get killed aren't gay people. Yeah, obviously, gay people aren't the majority of this country, and although there is a higher record of a certain high for that number, but in this case, the amount of Afrikaners dying is way too high. So, like, you can't explain to it saying, okay, how is this not racially motivated? You have those questions.
The farmers are not black. I don't say that's good or bad, but the farmers are not black. And the people that are being killed in large numbers, and you saw all those grave sites, and those are people that loved ones going, I guess on a Sunday morning, they told me, to pay respect to their loved ones that were killed. Their heads chopped off. They died violently. And, you know, I mean, we're here to talk about it, and I didn't know we'd get involved here. But I will say this, that if the news wasn't fake, like NBC, which is fake news, totally one of the worst, ABC, NBC, CBS, horrible. But if they weren't fake news like this jerk that we have here, if we had real reporters, they'd be covering it. But the fake news in this country doesn't talk about that. They don't want to talk about it. But now they have to talk about it. But they won't. This won't even be a subject. They'll have him talking about why did a country give a free, think of this, why did a country give an airplane to the United States Air Force? Okay, the United States, not to me, to the United States Air Force, so they can help us out, because we need an Air Force One since Air Force One is being built, 2 of them being built. But Boeing's a little bit late, unfortunately. So why did they give us a plane to the United States Air Force? That's what that idiot talks about after viewing a thing where thousands of people are dead.
I'm sorry, I don't have a plane to give you.
I wish I did. I would take it. If your country offered the United States Air Force a plane, I would take it.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. That conversation ended up kind of well. Yeah, I did think the president of I'll give the president of South Africa some credit. He seems friendly. He seems willing to listen. I'll give him that. Cyril Ramaphosa. But the facts are quite obvious, okay? South Africa is a very corrupt country. It's a one-party state. And I did a video of South Africa last year. actually, talking about the election of Cyril Ramaphosa in 2024. He was elected just last year, just like Donald Trump. But I do think he was already in office. But he comes from the only political party in the country that's really relative. That's the African National Congress. That's a left-wing political party. Really, it's socialist. It's just the thing. It says, yeah, it's part of the Socialist International. Guys, this is the ruling political party of South Africa. It's controlled South Africa ever since the Nelson Mandela era. African leaders, but you get what I'm saying. Ramaphosa also said something about the party being a minority. Yeah, but guess what else was a minority? The KKK, right? And we can never stop talking about the KKK in this country. It's all over the history books. It was so small. I can guarantee it was smaller than that political part in the rallies. Oh my goodness, KKK rallies were 10 times smaller than what we've seen in that footage. So I find it very okay, it's a small political party. Okay, oh well. And yeah, it's allowed to exist, but then again, you gotta have to intervene when it gets too far. When you have your these people calling for the genocide of innocent Afrikaners via machine gun, then this has to be investigated. And am I suggesting banning the party? Well, I'm all for free speech, and I would be. It would take a lot for me to ban a political party, but I mean, if they are going to continue, if it's going to become like an ISIS party, then sure. I mean, I'd be quite honest with you. We're already getting rid of MS-13 and Front so we could just associate it. You're just not a political party then. That's what we'll just say. You're a cult, and you're not allowed to exist because there's a difference between a cult and a political party. But obviously, okay, why am I... Oh, this is the list of South Africans. Never mind, but you get what I'm saying. I guess you guys know. This party has been in power since 1990. And it's going to continue being in power. And obviously, this party does have the support of the extremists, because they need the extremists in order to win. Otherwise, if they don't have the support of the extremists, then the extremists, just saying, would be taking over. But anyway, what do you guys think in regards to this epic comeback that Donald Trump... I'm going to say epic comeback. Donald Trump was always back. But they were all going and they were saying, oh, Donald Trump, he was going to white interests. He's falling into white interests. White people, privileged people, he's bringing them to America for free. He's getting rid of people of color. Now we add more context to that. And they're going to boo-hoo and cry about that anyway. I guarantee you they still will. Because like I said a couple videos ago, I said, it's damned if you do, damned if you don't in this video. You could see a public mass beheading of Afrikaners, and they will still insist that Afrikaners are the most privileged people because they are white. This is just the liberal media. So anyway, what do you guys think in regards to this video? Let me know down in the comments. And as always, I will see you all in the next political episode.